till now. It's just going live now. Yeah. So anyway, we just came live. Hello everybody, and thanks for joining. This is not really something that a lot of people will be watching. Right? Most of our videos are actually watched later. So this is a key piece of information that I'll give you because it's more like knowledge. So we are trying to produce this, like knowledge base. That is the reason that we are doing a lot of live. So we wanted to discuss an important issue actually. That's why we met, and no, that's why we called you also. That that the migrant crisis that is actually happening in India right now. It's a major issue, and about 44 million migrant laborers are involved in the crisis right now. And they have, we know about all of the news. You know about it that people have walked back home for thousands of miles. They have not got the required necessary resources to survive for even a single day. They have been eating for 2 or 3 days later at times. There, you know, a lot of things that has been been happening along these lines. So I think everybody who's watching, I think they can just get back to it and check it out. What is on the news right now itself. And today, Nirmala Sitharaman also came on news, and she announced relief packages and etc. So that also happened. And yesterday, day before yesterday, trains were also organized to send people back home, which was prime between Delhi and Howrah, and a lot of things. These things developments have been going on recently. But one thing that remains constant is the fact that this migrant crisis essentially remains the same. Okay, so like this is something that we wanted to discuss. That let's begin with actually understanding what the problems are first. That how did we come to this point where 44 million people are actually like a diaspora right now in our own country. That they are not a diaspora outside the country. They're in fact inside the country, and they are migrating the in the truest sense of the word migration. So they are migrating thousands of miles, and this is happening. They actually came thousands of miles to the cities looking for work, and now they are going back again thousands of miles to their homes. Some of them landless, some of them landed. So this is a major crisis that India is actually staring at right now, apart from all the economic crisis for the industries which we are anyway the world is looking at. So who wants to go first? I think we can go along with the intros also when you guys are going ahead with this, because I won't introduce you guys today. I think just go ahead with your intros. Or no, you wanna go first on this and say
Yeah,
comment something? Yeah, brief.
yeah, sure. So,
Yeah,
thanks for that.
yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Arnab, and I am by profession a lawyer. I'm not a practicing advocate though. I'm the counsel for Infosys. I'm a technology counsel, and I look after Infosys's Asia Pacific business. Everything east of India till sort of Japan. Uh, anyway, so I sort of came on board with Torunodaya because, for one thing, I think what your group wants to do, and hopefully it'll be my group soon, and what we'll want to do is going to really, really impact, what we are seeing. And I'll come to that in a minute. But so what I want to take a key point from what Olu said. He spoke about 44 million Indians being a diaspora within the country, and that they're moving, and that there is no sort of support system, no infrastructure for them. I'm a lawyer, so I cannot talk about the tech, I cannot talk about the finance, I cannot talk about the economics, although I will try. But what I can tell you is about the law. So we must understand uh, what is the law right now that is governing the country. Broadly, you'll notice that in most countries across the world where we have the COVID-19 pandemic, the country has declared emergency. Either the civil government or the military, or some sort of a joint national government, somebody has declared an emergency. India is the only large country where there is no state of emergency. Why? Because right now we have a very unique law which is in force in the country. It's called the Epidemic Diseases Act of 1897. It's important to understand this law because there's a direct nexus between this law and the migrant crisis. This law was created in 1897 to deal with a series of plague and cholera outbreaks across central India, the largest of which hit Pune, where millions and millions of Indians died for something as basic as the lack of clean drinking water. And I think
mm,
100 plus years
mm,
later, we Indians are still dying for the same, the same
of
basic
course.
lack of, yeah. So, but what 18 the act did, the EDA did, was that it gave sweeping powers to the government to deal with a specific kind of disease and epidemic, and they wrote the act looking at diseases like tuberculosis, cholera, plague in mind, where if the person is infected, there is no concept of movement. A cholera patient cannot move.
Mm, mm,
Now, what has happened is, therefore, what has the government done? Naturally, the act has given the government powers like lockdown, shutting down of transportation, having control over the ways of movement across the country. So the government has naturally invoked the act and done it. Why? Because this is the easiest option.
mm, 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 mm,
But we must understand the act was meant for something else.
mm.
We never
So what
thought
you're
that there would
so
be. Yes, sorry.
so
Yeah,
what you're
go on.
trying to say so what you're trying to say is that this essentially the procedure that we are following right now, it was never meant for this, is what is one of the significant problems over here.
Correct, correct. So the intention is
Mm,
correct, but the
mm,
execution is wrong. So
mm,
today, the government has notified certain ordinances to protect health workers from attack under the same
mm,
act.
mm, mm, mm,
My
mm, mm, mm,
question is, the government should also bring in ordinances which will allow state governments and central government to create the infra in place to transport these people. Right now, we have massive fleets of buses, and most of them
mm,
are government
mm,
owned. Huge fleets, one of
mm,
the
mm, mm,
largest in the world. They are sitting idle.
mm, mm,
We have
mm,
huge amount of petroleum products in storage which is sitting idle. So if this act and if the regulatory regime is amended by the government, I believe we can have secure means of transportation for these people. It's not that the government is not trying, it's that they're trying something wrong. They have opened trains, very
mm,
good, but they have a very
mm,
limited capacity of running trains right now because even the Indian Railways is following social distancing. So
mm,
workshops are not functioning, car sheds are not
mm.
functioning, their infrastructure vendors are not functioning. So they are running a minimum number of trains, 300 trains a day. That's not enough for 44 million people. So that
Yeah.
doesn't even come on the charts if you start drawing graphs here.
What do you say, Shayan? Like, you wanna say something to this? Because, like, I think you
No,
could give your brief introduction again, like before you begin.
yeah. So, guys, like joining today, like I'm Sayan, and I work with Andhra Pradesh Economic Development Board in the tourism development segment. So, taking from where Arnab left, I will just add to that. It's again that while the act is draconian and outdated, at the same time, during the lockdown measure, there was a possibility where the center could give more free hand to state governments because they are at the ground level and they can decide how much restrictions need to be taken. Here, what happened, like just the government and the health department, MOHFW, just got to know about some epidemic and they just jumped in to save the day, like siding all the efforts the state governments could take. And now what happens? If anything goes wrong, state governments are to be blamed. If anything is right, the central government takes all the credit. In this kind of fighting, then and at the same time, like procurement of kits, etc., testing, etc., showing that you are not doing proper tests and all, more restrictions and things are being placed by the central government. Because of this confusion between the share of responsibility central and state, we are seeing these problems right now. That's all I would be adding.
So I wanted to quickly butt in with one point what Shayan said. So this is
Yeah,
not
Mhm,
really
yeah.
on topic, but just a small legal point. That is, his
mhm,
over the last sort of 25, 30 years, we've been noticing that more and more India is supposed to be a quasi-federal country, which means a significant amount of power in the hands of the state. But over the last 25 to 30 years, we are noticing that even constitutionally, even the laws itself are becoming more and more centralized. Power is becoming more accrued into the hands of the central government. And strangely, every Supreme Court in the last sort of quarter century has actually batted for centralization of power. So if that be so, if that is so, if that is the trend, I think then even the way in which discourse is done has to be changed. If that is so, then we can no longer blame state governments blindly. Then we also need to look at, okay, if you have so much power in the hands of the central government, then what are the points on which I'm going to hold them accountable, where I cannot right now.
Yeah, I mean, let me come in as a layman over here, okay? Like because you people do know the government from the angle that you know it, but like let me just come in as a layman and say that like the problems that I am looking at essentially, I am sitting in a comfortable house. Okay, I am sitting in a comfortable house and having this conversation with you, but they are in that position. Now, this is something that we wanted to explore as a problem. That how is this happening? Okay, but how can they not come up to where I am and I will remain where I am even during and through this crisis. You understand, right? What I'm trying to say. Like in the crisis, also, we are in the same state, but they are becoming poorer and poorer. That is what is happening. And that too, after immense amount of investment from the side of the state and the central government to fund the specific personal entrepreneurships that these people had. Okay. Even after that, basically, their state did not improve, and that is the reason that they are where they are right now. So what do you have to say about this? Like, what do you think?
So,
Who wants
like
to come in?
again,
Yeah,
like
yeah, Shane.
so again, if we see in the initial days of this, uh, when the pandemic just started, there was a certain amount of assistance offered to states by the central government. Even today, the state governments are saying that they haven't received the assistance. At the same time, with the lack of time and the like lack of resources, because they have their own liabilities towards the central government, and also because of the sudden stoppage of economic drivers, the income source of the states and the center has been stopped. The PDS system as well as and the because these are migrant people, they do not hold ration cards. That is the first point. And when in such a scenario, planning of the PDS takes a bit of time, which they couldn't do, and ultimately seeing a lack of resources, the states were like, I cannot take the responsibility, so let the states from where these people came, let them take them back. Now here the center jumps in that whoever is wherever should remain there only, and others like there like the migrants homestays were like, we do not have the resources or the infrastructure to bring them back, so the center should intervene in this mismatch between the two states and the center. We are right now saying this because I will give an example from our own state. When the migrants started moving in from Telangana to Andhra Pradesh, Telangana actually issued a kind of e-pass. But at the same time, when they reached Andhra Pradesh border, Andhra Pradesh
Hmm.
government was like, these e-passes are not recognized by us, so we will not allow these people to come into our state.
Hmm.
This is
That
what
is
happened.
something which happened between like Delhi and some other state. I don't remember
This
Punjab
has
actually.
happened.
Punjab or
Hmm. Hmm.
This
like
just
somebody
happened
stopped them at the
recently
border.
with. This just
Hmm.
recently happened near the Tamil Nadu border, just south of Bangalore.
Hmm.
The same thing
Yes.
has happened.
And also on
Hmm.
Maharashtra and Karnataka border near
Yeah.
the
Hmm. Hmm.
Belgaum.
Hmm.
Well,
So it's a repetitive incident essentially that there is a discord between the center and the state that
Hmm.
we see all the time essentially. That is why
So
these people are probably getting crushed between it. I don't know. I mean that is what
so
I feel as a
hopefully.
layman.
Now today, three of my laborers, three
Yeah,
tailors, they are ready
yeah.
to go in a container from Bombay to Bihar, and they are ready to pay
Hmm.
3,000 each for 3,000 each, 4,500 per person to go in a
Hmm.
container.
Hmm.
They're ready to risk their life. Today they were telling me, please sir, come down to drop us off at Thane, which is something around 30 kilometers from my place. If it is was in the morning, I could have easily gone and dropped them off and come back. But now in the night, I'm little wary. How can I drop them off? I don't want them to go also, but neither can I, what do you say, offer assistance to them. after a
So
certain
Milind,
point.
so Milind, is there any train from Bombay to Bihar?
No, there is
Because-
not. They have given their Aadhaar card to some government official. They said we
Hmm.
have been waiting for a call. We have not received a call for the last 10, 15 days. We are waiting for a call, which hasn't
So,
come in.
so okay. So if we can connect offline, I think I can connect you to some people in the government. So that's for later. So, but that's a very
Yeah,
good
I mean,
point.
this is something.
That's for
This is
later.
something that I shared. Yeah, I mean, shared from my profile also. There was a video of Tirupur railway station. I don't know whether you saw it. I think Arnab, you saw it maybe.
Yes,
So
yes,
there
yes,
was
yes.
there was this video where you could see that there are thousands and tens of thousands of basically manual laborers standing at Tirupur railway station because they heard that trains might start. Now trains did not start, and there were no trains which were going through it. So is there a like significant discord between the center and the state? That is, I think, the question that we come at.
So there's
First
a
of all, in the first 10 days, they should have not stopped
Mm,
the train. I booked tickets twice. They shouldn't
mm,
have
mm,
done
mm,
that. They
mm,
should have let the migrants go back to their place, and then after 10 days, you should have shut down the place. You should have complete shutdown, because what is happening? And now I roam around, go to these
mm,
places to buy grocery. There is a
mm,
containment zone, but in that containment zone, there is no. It is very lethargic. People are roaming around
mm,
everywhere. They're coming out of the containment zone. People are going into the containment zone.
mm, mm.
It is a very sorry state of affairs going on.
Okay, yeah, I think I'll take this one. Somebody actually commented over here. One survey in May found that almost 8 out of 10 migrant laborers had not been paid at all during the lockdown. How do you how do you ensure something like this is actually implemented? I mean, on that level, because this is obviously a problem that we look at all the time during any crisis. Actually, it's not about the corona crisis. If you look at a flood which actually happened in Kerala just before this, it was probably the same issue. I mean, like they were told that they'll get relief packages, which they did. We come back to this all the time. Wonder, what do you think? Like,
so there
I'll then come to Shayan after that.
so there are two ways of looking at it. I think there's a short-term
Yeah, yeah,
prescription and long-term prescription in terms of policy
yeah, yeah,
prescription. The short term,
yeah.
you obviously look at things like enforcement through labor department and directorates and so on, which is not a foolproof solution. I think that throws up more problems than the solution itself. Now, what is the
Mm-hmm.
long-term solution for this? The long-term solution for this in a sort of population heavy but mineral light country like India would be to ensure that we look at the basics, which is agri, which is our agro sector. India has, but the sad part is, even though we've done green revolution, white revolution, I don't know how many colored revolutions we have done.
Yeah,
Despite
yeah.
that, more and more, farmers are leaving the fields and going to the cities. They
Mm,
are the
mm, mm,
migrants. They fall into three
mm.
categories, and all that we may go into that later. Now, why
Correct.
is that migrant going to city? Why is the tailor going from Bihar to work for Milind in Bombay? Because they have no significant income in the village, whereas the sort of inflationary effect is uniform across the country. So if he's in Bombay, he's earning 20,000 rupees. In the village, he's earning 3,000 rupees, which is obviously preposterous. So the long-term policy prescription would be to look at ways of using this package or this opportunity post COVID to bring in linkages between one markets, global markets, and the national market and the farmer itself. So maybe a farm to fork kind of a model. Secondly, looking at creation of targeted infrastructure, like what? For example, about about 10 to 15% of our produce rots away in our fields. It does not even reach the mandi. But we have APMC, we have mandi, we have so many things, all sorts of archaic socialist era laws created for helping the farmers, which is doing nothing but cartelization. So
Absolutely.
amend these laws, use technology like sort of e-tendering and e-marketplace, e-mandi, create targeted infrastructure like cold chain. I think at a block level, we should have at least one cold storage and 2 to 3 warehouses for storing of agricultural produce, and focusing on high yield produce. For example, if you look at the Israelis, they originally, after getting independence, there were only two sectors in Israel. One, either you worked in the military services, or two, you were a farmer. What did they do? They looked to farming of one thing. They realized there's a huge market across the world for olive oil. The Israelis started growing olives in the Negev desert. So what are they doing? They are sort of producing and selling a high yield crop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mechanization technology and the correct policy interventions will give us the same effect, and on a scale which no other country can do. India is all about scale.
You want to comment on this, Shant?
So I will actually start from the grassroots of this. Like, for example, if we are to see a case in Delhi, the chief minister said the people who are like migrants in my state can register on some website for the purpose of their immediate food requirements. Now, how many laborers in that particular region of migrants have access to internet or even a smartphone? That's one thing. Secondly, if we had to talk about like the reason they came, like they have migrated to cities, is that urbanization in the past several decades has been in certain pockets of the country. It's not quite spread out. So I think we need to focus on more opportunities like smart villages or like smart cities, so that these different urban and different what you call regions of the country are more self-sufficient, so that they can attract laborers from their own state, so that the problem migration is solved. At the same time, I think, like, I am hoping that the one nation, one ration card scheme of the like central government should be able to solve this problem to some extent, which was like still like stipulated for 1st of June. Like they had to announce it. Let's see what happens. If it comes every like the problem of not having ration card of that particular state will be solved to a large extent, so that the PDS supply doesn't get stopped just because they are foreign, they are outside of the state. I think so.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
Milind, if you want to comment anything on this.
No, I'm
Yeah, I
not.
think
I just want to
don't know
listen.
whether he's there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Apart from that,
Yeah, okay,
also like
okay, sure. So anyway, yeah,
yes, yes. So okay,
yeah, Shine, go ahead. Like what you're saying.
yes, yes. So apart from that, also like in our state, we have this concept of Raitu Bazaars, in which farmers can come and directly sell their produce in the marketplace. If we can actually adopt, if we adopt these what you call kinds of measures, more and more farmers can be benefited. Even for like these Raitu Bazaars are essentially on government lands. At the same time, the logistics is completely controlled digitally, as it goes for our like AP Girijan Corporation also, and other like supply chains also. So, like if we can actually adopt these kinds of models in different states, I think we can also be able to solve the problem of departure from farming lands. That would be my point. These are my points. Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wanted to ask you something actually different, like because since this is something related and something that actually Arnab said, that I feel that in urban areas there are people who are overpaid, and in rural areas there are people who are underpaid. And this we have noted in a survey also, like generally if you look at it overall. So how do we come to that point where we can establish an economic system which is suitable for both the urban area and the rural area, and they have a shot at basically coming up to that economic standard essentially, or that standard of living, if you might say. Like what do you think
The standard
on
of living in city and in villages is quite different. So I don't think so we can come to that level. Of living
Yeah.
is completely different in city. See, you can get a vegetable out here for what do you say 40 rupees, but if you go to a village, it is going to cost you same thing is going to cost you 10 rupees. If you go to what do you say rent a house, a 1 BHK will cost you something around 20,000 30,000 in Bombay. But if you go to a what do you say a village or something of that sort, it is going to cost you something around 5,000. So you cannot compare the two.
Yeah.
So just taking up from what Milind said, that just like how wages have not increased in villages. Costs have also not increased in villages. However, more and more, one thing we are noticing, just something off the top of my head, is that the average Indian is aspirational, regardless of whether she is in Bombay or in Barabanki. Now the point is, everyone wants wages to go up. We have a jobs crisis now, but we have had a wages crisis for decades. So if we look at something very pertinent to what we are doing, okay, and what Shayan also stressed on, is that economic migrants are broadly in India of three kinds. One, migrants like me. I have moved from my place of residence to another place of residence. I am here for a significant time. Okay, we are professionals, mostly white collar people, some blue collar people. After that, there's a seasonal migrant. Pertinent to Karnataka would be people from Maharashtra who come to Karnataka during harvest season for sugarcane, and then they go back. And many of them do the same thing in Maharashtra. Then you have a third kind of migrant, which is like the itinerant migrant, who will be like somebody who will come to Bombay, work for a contractor for a year on a project. Once that project is done, they have nowhere to go. So the contractor will connect them to somebody in Gujarat. So then now they'll go to Gujarat and then they'll work on the next building a road, bridge, whatever. The point is, the focus has to be to make their basic thing profitable. A country which is 65% of its population is engaged in agriculture, we have to make agriculture more productive, more profitable. Now, how do we do it? Do we do it with tech? Do we do it with opening the market access? Do we do it how South American countries tried? That is, they try to corporatize their agriculture. Like they let companies like Monsanto, Cargill come over and buy huge plots of land to do their experiments, to do their sales, whatever. So these are various ways that we need to look at, and we don't have a lot of time. We need to do it now. Policy prescriptions have to be done now. Historically, across the world, populations have been most amenable to accepting a bitter policy pill, a bitter law, a difficult law, stringent change during times of these kind of calamities, natural disaster, war. People are more amenable. This is a window of opportunity.
Yeah, I think that is why the window of opportunity was used by the Environment Ministry. I think, as a jab to it. But anyway, I think that is a completely different discussion altogether, which I promised Arnav also that I'll get him on again to discuss environment law also and green tribunal laws. Definitely, we'll discuss that in a different session altogether. But Milind, do you have any comments on what he said, about the migrant situation?
No, I'm on the same page.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we pretty much discussed a lot of the problems. Let's come to the solutions. One of the things that I actually want to begin with, okay, is the fact that these people are actually going back to the farms. These people are actually going back to the rural areas with the expectation that they'll probably be able to do something over there, or so that leaves a great amount of opportunity for social entrepreneurs who are looking at rural areas to develop. This is number one. And this also leaves out a window of opportunity for the government to set up their industries in rural areas and get the labor to appoint them over there. So I think both of these things we are looking at together. What are your comments on these? This is what I would want to know. Shayan, if you want to go first.
So again, this requires a lot in the political will also of the ruling parties or those in the opposition, because the same point as suggested by you, that whether we corporatize our farms, it was suggested by one of our former chief ministers in 1995 itself. Even today, he is pointed out for that in the political circles, that this person is anti-farmer. So there he had clearly suggested that people farmers should look for alternate livelihoods so that larger corporations can come into the state and actually start corporate farms to make it more profitable. So that's one thing. Secondly, again, how many at the same time providing just access to the market. it will again like through whom they actually like get that market, like direct market access, that matters. Like whether it is through a corporate entity or
Mm,
through a self-help group, it matters because
mm.
at the
Let's
same
talk
time
about
that
this a little. I actually wanted to, but in a way, ask you something regarding the MSP actually. So, like, there
hmm,
is a concept of a MSP. So, how much I
hmm,
want to know that how much is this concept of a MSP implemented? Because according to the news that I have been watching right now, like MSP is probably not getting implemented right now. The farmers in Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, they actually took their wheat to the mandi and they didn't get the MSP. I mean, MSP is supposed to be 15 to 16 rupees. They are even getting 5 to 6 rupees for a kg of wheat,
uh,
right? I mean, this is what it is.
yes, yes. So
Yeah.
it's not that
Mm,
that MSPs are not implemented, but the MSP formulation itself has been in a way that they have been like near to half of what was like the old MSP under the promise of increasing the MSPs. The formulation itself has been
mm,
wrong, which has brought down the prices. So that's the primary aspect of that.
mm, mm. What do you
So
think,
if the
Arnab? Are
MS,
you listening to this? Arnab, I don't know whether Arnab is listening to this.
I was, in fact, I was thinking,
Okay.
because what
Yeah.
I will say may not be the popular opinion, but I am not in favor of an MSP led or an MSP driven model. Because in
Mm,
most cases, what happens, why do we have an MSP? It's a floor, right? That the price will not
mm,
go down below that. And so
mm,
why are we anticipating a price drop? It's that that crop has a problem of overproduction.
mm,
We give
mm, mm.
MSP for what? Wheat, paddy, sugarcane.
Absolutely.
Why
Mm,
don't we give MSP for capsicum? Just asking.
mm,
Because there's more demand, the demand is more than the supply. In this case, it's
yeah.
reversed.
Mm,
So while MSP is nothing but a band-aid when your
mm,
entire leg has been sort of shot off. Okay. That's my
mm,
sort of, it might be wrong. I may be completely wrong.
mm,
We have a
mm,
problem of overproducing. So we are incentivizing people to continue to overproduce.
mm, mm,
MSP is doing what? Right now, this is how much money I get for 1 ton of wheat. Here you go. Here's X more rupees for it. So please
mm,
continue
mm,
doing what you're doing. But and look at states like Punjab and Haryana. They are increasingly growing water intensive crops like rice,
mm, mm.
especially different kinds of basmati rice. There's been a
Yeah.
large scale shift in North India,
Yeah.
at least one growing season of basmati. Why are they doing it? Because it's an export item. So
Mm,
you have
mm,
huge MSPs, huge export subsidies, and so on and so on. Now the thing is, we are not focusing on the basic, which is a state like Haryana or Punjab, where they have subsurface water issues, cannot grow a water intensive crop. There is no policy intervention to stop that. We should be looking at trying to grow similar crop in a place like Bihar, where there is no water scarcity at least at a subsurface level. I think there is an area where a social entrepreneur like what we are trying to do here, where we can come. This kind
mm,
of, it's like we are being a augmenting factor to the government. All we need is that the government not impede us, do not stop
mm.
us.
Yeah. Somebody saying
I
not overproduction.
Yes,
Those are stolen.
yes.
Yeah.
Wanted to
Yeah.
quickly add a rebuttal to that.
Yeah.
Government granaries, at least for the last 5 years, have been selling off grains that they have been storing because, well, we don't know what to do with it. We had famines historically, especially the Bengal famine of 1942 has scarred the Indian psyche. So we have created a buffer stock and so on, which is great for us. WTO has issues with it. The international community has issues with it. We're not going into that. But this grain that has been stocked, if you look at widespread media reporting from Bengal, UP, I remember clear cases from Uttar Pradesh, I think Haryana or MP, I'm not sure, where grain rice had to be sold off to distillers to create alcohol because they were rotting away.
Mm. Yeah. 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 Almost like I don't exactly remember the figures right now, but yeah, this was the news. And same thing happened with potatoes and all also. I think most probably.
So that's a problem. That's a
Yeah.
problem.
Mm-hmm. So
So
yeah,
why
I
do those
understand.
farmers do that? But have you come to that point? Why do the farmers do that? Why do they overproduce? Because one cycle they do the production, the vegetable gets a fair price. So everyone thinks कि बाबा इसको price मिल गया. Now what do? We'll do that crop again. More
Yes.
people go into that because of a shortage of onions. Some person got very rich. Then hundreds of people are going to think, अरे उसका मटका लग गया तो मेरा मटका भी लगना चाहिए ना. That is hundreds of people go into that and then they overproduce. That is what I have seen from what I have roamed around.
He's
Nobody
absolutely,
goes
he
into
is correct.
thinking. Nobody
Yes.
goes into thinking कि by 100 more people are going to do it, then what price am I going to get? We have to educate them कि what kind of crop do you want you should be doing, and you'll get a fair price for that.
Yeah.
That is the herd mentality. Instead of stopping COVID, the herd mentality goes into this production of what do you say, agriculture.
Yeah. Arnab, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think that is where policy interventions are required, is to one, educate the Indian farmer, two, equip with technology. Western states of India have started over the last sort of decade to introduce Israeli technology into our agriculture, especially trickle drip irrigation, which has now allowed
Yeah.
the same amount of soil, the same amount of fertilizer to be more productive, to actually grow more expensive, more valuable crop. So I think one, we need to educate, two, we need to equip, uh, three, we definitely need access to easy finance in villages, in rural areas. Farmers across the country are burdened by Mahajan Sahukars. Why? They do not have recourse to formal sort of banking channels, financial channels, where they can get soft loans. We can think of micro financing, something that Chandrasekhar Ghosh has been trying with Bandhan Bank. Not particularly very successful growth at the moment, but they're trying. Grameen Bank has been doing great work in Bangladesh in this regard. I have actually worked with them on certain projects. So these are issues that need to be resolved. Farmers need to be given more choice to grow more crops, and also I think government has to look at the international scenario. There's a huge market globally, especially in the Western countries, for artisanal vegetables. Okay, avocado, artichoke, broccoli. Okay, and
True.
there are very few countries which grow them in scale, which is why they are prohibitively expensive across the world. I think that's a huge opportunity for us to cash in on, because we already, India as a country is selling flowers. We are a huge flower producer and seller. Quick like sort of nerd trivia. Most of the cargo that gets out of Calcutta airport, valuable cargo, is flowers. So I think these are distribution channels which can be augmented. Policy, government intervention, I don't know, I mean, and again, that's the whole
What
point.
you're
Now,
saying is true. The distribution channels are not rightly marketed to the farmers. That is why they get into a rot.
Yes, absolutely.
That is, because some of the farmers that I've seen grow huge amounts of flowers, but that they don't get the price of what they're growing also.
True, absolutely.
The distribution channels are not marketed properly.
Absolutely.
Is this like general question is this a, yeah, Shayan, come in. My question is that is this a problem with the middleman?
No, it is problem with the government also, and with what do you say, general knowledge. It has not been spread around. Okay, what can you do? Now, my father had a what do you say, flower farm, but he used to sell it just generally to the mandi, to the middleman in Bombay. That's about it. For 1 rupee of growing, he would get 70 paisa, 80 paisa for a flower. If we had
So I
known
think-
how to export, where to go, where are the buyers, he would have done that.
So I think
And
there's a
also
huge-
like assuming Yeah, I mean, assuming the fact that they are traditional farmers also, I mean, they don't want to get into the jhamela of doing something like that, which requires them more effort or learning from their end.
Yeah,
Do you think that, like, that is one of the things?
So I think two quick points. One, picking up from what
Yeah.
Milind said, distribution channels are not marketed. That's a symptom of a greater problem with the agricultural sector in India, which is information asymmetry.
Mm,
That the end user of a product does not know that the product exists. The creator of the service does not know, the provider of the service does not know whom to provide service for, but the clientele is already there. So one is, I don't know, just again a suggestion, I mean, we can think about it. How can we use technology to bridge this information gap between, say, the
mm,
farmer and the seller, buyer, or whatever? If there's a distributor of who has established links in Europe, who exports flowers, and we have farmers who are growing valuable flowers in interior Bengal or in interior Maharashtra,
mm,
that there needs to be some kind of technology which will connect them to these distributors. Delivery channels can be built up. Logistics, India is going through a boom. We are competent.
mm,
We are building the right
mm.
kind of infrastructure for logistics. But information asymmetry is a huge problem. This is something that, Bangladesh has tried to solve a lot with mobile internet and application based banking and internet telephony and so on, right? So many things. I mean, this is one thing to look at. Yeah.
Yeah, Shayan, I think Shayan also shared something in the group today. I think, Shayan, you want to talk about that, right?
Not that actually, like in this aspect only which we're discussing, I would like to bring
Yeah.
actually two examples which can be used as
Mm,
case studies. First being like, I think how many of us know about Heritage Dairy? That company is actually now offering loans to their dairy farmers as well as, and has offered to pay all the installments on behalf of the farmers to the bank. In through these loans, the company is actually facilitating the farmers to get all the required machinery and the resources for the cows they breed, etc., so that they can produce more and produce more and sell to heritage. That's one thing. Secondly, the government of India also has incentivized R&D centers and education institutions to actually work for these segments. With the introduction of something like this is actually a part of the Atal Innovation Mission. Actually, they have started something called Community Innovation Centers, Atal Community Innovation Centers, in which the innovation centers are to primarily look after the economic activities of the local area and do R&D and support entrepreneurship for that, for which the government provides any kind of grant or machinery support. I think if we can actually like bring corporate farming in tandem with this kind of R&D setups, we can actually do wonders in any rural areas. Yes.
yeah.
Is do you think, Shayan, that contract farming is one of the options that can be considered, where the contracts are regulated? So that can be very easily done. Laws can regulate particular kind of contracting. So do you think contract
Again, like
farming?
contract farming, again, like the problem is, like if we are to talk about, like let's take for example my state, we have these like a direct market access of farmers to the market.
Mm,
But at the same time, if we bring contract market to that, already there are certain parties which regulate the prices again on the MSP model. And then there are entities like heritage farm, like Heritage Dairy and then Vishaka Dairy, etc., which might try to influence the award of this contracting again. So again, how much that will be able to solve in the current political scenario of the country is a big question.
mm, mm, mm. I think there's a question that we have from the audience. Should we take this question or no?
Yeah,
And
why not?
Shayan, yeah, how
Yeah,
do
we
you
can
think the
take.
20 crore relief package would be distributed to MSME or farmers in general? Who wants to go first? What do you think?
I think like if this question is asked to me, I will suggest that this
Hmm.
money goes to banks for creating more farming loans, provided that these are primarily used by corporate farmers, like companies
Hmm.
involved in agriculture activities, who can actually take care of these kind of loans, not the farmers themselves. If the
Hmm.
like these are like at least taken up in like form of direct like financial assistance to farmers, they should be in form of grants or like tech investments, etc., which are again supported by people like parties who can afford this. Otherwise,
Hmm.
in the in the reins of the financial burdens on the farmers, we are already seeing how much trouble these like loans have caused. And again, like every time providing run mafi, just writing off all the loans of the farmers is not a very good like financial sign. Also, it's not a very good financial practice.
Hmm.
It plays havoc with the
Absolutely.
state's treasury also.
Disincentivizes
So.
efficiency.
So instead of giving them directly to farmers, these should be actually given to companies who are involved in agriculture, because anyways the companies are going to employ farmers.
Hmm.
Yes.
Arnav, what do you say? What are your comments on this?
I like to take a different approach at this. So the thing is that if we look at the 20 crore relief package in itself, it cannot transform the economy. This relief package is like medicine, which needs to be now shot into your
Sorry,
body.
this is not 20 crore. This is 20
It's
lakh
20
crore,
20
lakh
lakh crore.
essentially.
crore. Lakh
Yeah,
crore.
yeah,
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 I think that's a
yeah,
typo by the post.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
That's a typo.
so
Yeah.
the package in itself is not enough. We need deep structural reforms. So we need to get rid of a lot of regulatory cholesterol that we have. Bureaucratic hurdles, non-bureaucratic hurdles, outdated means of ways of
Hmm.
making regulations, uh,
Hmm.
and, and how we do it is going to have a huge, as big an impact as the package.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
So
And
I'm
I
looking at
think,
it.
I
Yeah,
think one of the hints that actually she dropped in the this thing is that how will it be distributed is she redefined what is a MSME. So you can
yes,
understand that basically we are looking at industries which are already making significant amounts of money. So most probably they are manufacturing plants which are made in the rural areas. That is what only like what will be a MSME which has a annual turnover of more than 20 crores. I think that is the sensible, logical way of thinking about it.
there's another way of looking at it, that is the government is trying to target sectors which are job creating, sectors
Hmm.
where you have a lot of jobs.
Exactly,
A
exactly,
100 crore
exactly.
MSME working in
Hmm.
textiles might have 300 employees, whereas an 100
Correct.
crore MSME working in automobile might have just 45 employees because robots are doing the
Exactly.
rest of the work. So I think that's also
Hmm.
something they are targeting. They need to target more,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
because right now the problem is job creation.
Hmm. Hmm.
We
Hmm.
need
Hmm.
more jobs,
Yeah. Yeah.
more
Yeah.
jobs, decent to good wages.
Hmm. Yeah, correct. I think that is mostly what it is. I mean, I think
So
yeah, we've taken the questions and we've taken most of the things. I think somebody had this comment which covers everybody right now, but I think you guys can see this. Uh, yeah, as in,
so
I think this is actually regarding Arnab's comment only about the green
I wanted to
revolution and
address that.
etc.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to address that because they've raised very
Hmm.
pertinent points that there are 23
Hmm.
crops covered by MSP,
Hmm.
but three
Hmm.
crops have a disproportionate impact on the entire sector. That's wheat, paddy, and cotton. Uh,
Hmm.
now, and if you look, the MSP is actually working to distort the natural functioning of the market,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
because people are getting
Yeah.
into that. Actually, what the poster has very correctly raised, monocropping, which is
Hmm.
environmentally unsustainable. Monocropping
Exactly.
on a same piece of land for years and years, and in case of India for decades, the same family has been raising cotton maybe for 3 generations, the same set
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
cotton
Hmm.
farmers. Not only is the
Correct.
soil degraded, which now causes, which now you have to add chemical fertilizers there.
Hmm.
Secondly, the
Yeah.
crop is also you become susceptible to diseases because it's a
Hmm.
monocrop. So is you have the same kind of genes, the same sort of, there's no genetic variation. So
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
immunity levels fall, which is why you'll see a lot of reporting on pink ball. It's kind
Hmm.
of insect for cotton. So now you'll have to
Hmm.
use insecticide, which brings me
Yeah.
back to another comment where they said that MSP is needed because the input cost is raising. So because I am spending more on pesticide and fertilizer, therefore I need an MSP. This is not a very correct argument, because it's sort of a closed loop. Because I have MSP, the market conditions are distorted. I am doing monocropping, therefore now I have these problems, therefore I have high input costs. So there's a
Yeah.
structural need for a structural change. I mean, what both posters have raised are pertinent points.
Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, I think what Shayan, you want to come in? Neha, I'm not sure whether she wants to actually come in.
No,
Actually,
like
I have a question with
Yeah.
respect to the migrant crisis, which I mean, it's not really what you guys are talking about. It's more about healthcare. And my question is that now you have all these, migrants moving from the cities back to the heartland. Uh, they haven't, well, essentially, they haven't been tested, for this virus, and they could be carrying it. They could spread it. There is that potential. We don't know how that is going to pan out. My question is how prepared are we to handle that kind of a situation? What are state and central governments doing in this kind of a situation? Because to treat this disease, or even to give that kind of supportive therapy, you definitely need specialized hospitals, you need specialized healthcare professionals, which may or may not be present in the kind of
Mm,
large scale that is required in these places. So
mm,
how are we going to deal with that kind of a situation? And also there is this potential that even if you do survive this disease, it can cause significant, say, organ damage, where, for example, if your kidney is damaged, you're probably going to have to be on dialysis for the rest of your life. I mean, there is that,
mm,
there is enough evidence to suggest that this could happen, which means also expenses for someone who may not be able to afford this kind of treatment, who could be young and could have to live with the consequences of carrying this disease for the rest of their life. So what can we do in this kind of a situation, to help, or to make it better? It's more COVID specific, but that's my
mm, mm,
question.
mm,
so, okay. So right now, as we all can see, the immediate step what every state government is taking, that whoever is coming to the state is being taken to a quarantine center for 14 days. What our state is like, I don't know about your states. What our state is doing specifically, it is listing that these many people are cases which came from different states. Like they're doing a district-wise profile. At the bottom of the table, it's like
mm,
Gujarat gave us 37 cases and Karnataka gave us 48 cases. Like that, like our state government listing and creating a data for that. At the
mm,
same time, we had recently we had a gas leak incident also.
mm,
So in that aspect also, the patient like people who actually got affected by the gas were only admitted to
mm,
hospitals which are not yet like COVID affected. At the same time,
mm,
uh, people were like in the first day they couldn't be checked at the in the what you call the father necessary to the movement. But at the same time,
mm,
second day onwards they were checked actually like whether they're positive or not, and immediately after they could be like after they could actually get back to their homes, they like the complete areas were sealed in that 5 kilometer radius of the plant, and people were asked to be in the home quarantine, and that area has been now marked as a containment zone. So this is how like our government is trying to tackle things. At the same time, the key
mm,
lies in the number of tests being done and how are you able to control the migrants like who are coming to the state through quarantining and taking care of them. There is no other way right now because nobody knows like how the virus actually functions because it has been changing its symptoms. Right now, people Gujarat was few days ago that 80% of the cases are asymptomatic, but at the same time, 2 days later, a new set of symptoms came that cold and fever are no longer the only symptoms of this virus, but upset stomach or like some stomach related problems are symptoms of this virus. So when the symptoms themselves are like what you call changing for this virus, we cannot take any further steps in this point of time. But yes, with more and more data and testing, we can actually control this.
mm.
So I can take up Neha's second question.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Neha's, I think Neha's query was on what happens to post-COVID sort of health issues for
Mm-hmm.
those with existing health issues right now and they're affected by COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a tool for that. The question is, can we tweak that tool to address your problems? The tool is the whole point of Ayushman Bharat. We have the
Yeah.
world's largest sort of
Mm-hmm.
healthcare insurance program in place. Is it good? Is it bad? Separate sort of discussion. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a
Yeah.
tool that can be used. Now the point is, what? How do we treat sort of post-COVID uh, sort of comorbid issues that come up with COVID?
Mm-hmm.
Is something I would like to leave to public health professionals, to doctors, to epidemiologists, and to insurance specialists. I'm not an insurance specialist. I do not have uh, a lot of knowledge of insurance law, but I can tell you that a large, broad based, equitable health insurance scheme can be used uh,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
to deal with this.
Right.
It can be
Yeah,
done.
I think, yeah, Neha, go ahead.
No. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just wanted to say that, yeah, I mean, a welfare scheme, a good one, like probably one which is used in Canada, is something, people are looking up to right now as examples in which you should be implementing welfare schemes. And I think if something of that sort can actually be achieved by either the central government or the individual state governments, then I think that is going to be very good for the country. But just that we have a major population to essentially deal with. That becomes an issue, and I think that is what Neha was trying to ask. That if those 44 million people essentially go back to those places, then what happens? Because
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess that's what you wanted to ask. But
I-
but here I think there's a different question. I mean, related to this. I
Uh-huh.
mean, like if you go deeper into understanding this, that that probably this is a problem that is already there. I mean, when I went to the Andamans, actually, my sister-in-law is from the Andamans. So when I went to a visit over there, I realized that where she's from this place called Rangat. Okay, so in Rangat, there is only one dispensary for the entire northern part of Andamans. Okay, so everybody, whether you are a Jarwa or whether you are a tribal at the exact opposite end of Andamans, you have to come to that Rangat ka dispensary only. Okay, so this is not a problem essentially related to the crisis, I would say. This is a problem that we are dealing with all the time, and I think better Medicare facilities need to
Structural
be.
problem.
Yeah, structural problem. I think there is an infrastructural problem anyway. I mean, this is something that we have to deal with. I mean, the cities are not being able to hold all the corona patients or proper treatment facilities. I don't think that those people will be able to hold any good. But I am hoping that those people will not be affected or are probably not affected. Okay, I'm just according to my guesses, this is what I'm guessing, that they might be slightly lesser affected than the people in the urban areas. There could be different causes for this, but it could be is what I feel.
So I wanted to quickly just inform you about this. That is that
Mm.
I, in my free time, try and give pro bono advice to non-profit organizations. So I'm currently advising a particular group of individuals who are trying to address this exact problem of one dispensary. What they're trying
Mm.
to do is they're trying to see if health services like medicines, testing, doctor visit, oftentimes you have to go to the city to a doctor just to show a report.
Yeah,
you may
exactly.
have the you may have the clinic, you may have a diagnostic center in your village or in your town, but you might have to
Mm.
go to the district headquarters to that particular doctor to show a report. So these
Correct.
guys are actually trying to provide all these services on a doorstep delivery model
Mm. Mm.
using tech,
So that can be
obviously,
done.
and
Yeah.
leveraging logistics. So that can be done, but then that's predicated
Mm.
again on the point that you have access to the internet, you have some
Mm.
basic kind of smartphone which
Yeah.
can receive images, you can use it for video, maybe for WhatsApp or
Mm.
whatever. So
Mm-hmm. I think we have
there
to
are
go in a like process. I think there needs to be a process in which we go in. We can't. I mean, things are obviously happen in this country in a very haphazard and unstructured manner in a lot of places. I think the states which are actually succeeding right now in fighting the crisis in their best ways are the ones which are slightly more structured than the unstructured ones. I think, yeah, Neha, like if you want to come in.
Yeah, no, I agree with you guys. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a situation that was pre-existing, but I think
Mm.
also the fact that now this is a pandemic, and you're probably going to have the number of patients getting sick at the same time is going to be way higher than under normal circumstances, which is what makes
Mm.
this like something which I hope the government would address as a more bigger concern. Because
Yeah.
if people do need treatment, then where are they going to go? I mean, I see that even in the
Yeah.
cities where you can have your insurance and you can have everything, you can have all the money in the world,
Mm.
but if there's no ICU
Mm.
for you, then there's no ICU for you. There's just nothing you
Mm.
can do about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think we'll just leave it at this note. I think a lot of things that we have talked about. Thank you, all of you guys who joined us today. It was a brilliant discussion. I think I don't know how many people are having this discussion apart from the channels over there. So online, I don't think there are many people having this. So thank you for having this discussion with us. Actually, it's something that concerns a lot of people, and hopefully this will be resolved soon, and we will be able to do something in the future for these people, hopefully. So let's look forward to that. Just leave it at that. So thanks, Neha. Arnab, Shayan, thanks a lot. I'll just end the broadcast over here. Thanks guys. Yeah.
Thank you.